sound business advice that resonates. Today, presenting with credibility, with my guest and public speaking expert, Frank Damelio from Target Intellect. Welcome, Frank.
Thanks for having me on the show.
It's a pleasure having you back. So I wanted to talk to you about public speaking, and in general, we always think about the concept that salespeople or the CEO of the company, they need to have public speaking skills because they're trying to communicate their message on a regular basis. But what do you feel, how is it important for everybody?
Well, you know, that's a great misconception. Clearly, salespeople and CEOs need to have those skills because they'd sink very quickly without them. However, 98% of the population, no matter what they do, are going to be in a position once in a while where they get up in front of a group and need to either support their opinion, to sell an idea. I'll give you an example. A dad who goes to a PTO meeting and has a great idea for a fundraiser. He's got to get up and sell the idea. An engineer who maybe usually works in a cubicle, but he's invited to a meeting and he's got to sell his idea on something to improve a product. And when this happens, these are the people that tend to feel the most pressure because they don't do it every day. And what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, is show you a little demonstration that will kind of explain how important this is.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
So we're going to have your viewers stare directly into the center. Do not break your eye contact. And you'll see it kind of forming a cone. Get lost in it. I won't try to hypnotize you, I promise. I'm going to count down from 10. When I get to 0, I'm going to ask you to do something. And you will see something cool. Here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Quick, look at my nose. I heard our studio people react to that. How many people out there in the audience saw my head grow? Excellent. Now, the purpose of the silly trick here is it teaches us a lesson. The lesson is this simple. What actually happened in real life?
Nothing.
Nothing. But you heard it. You heard the people in the studio. You heard them. They had a real reaction, right?
Right, right.
So perception becomes reality. Perception dictates reality. And so how does this apply to public speaking? Basically, if you're the guy, the dad at the PTO meeting, or the engineer selling his idea, and if you get up, or if you're an attorney and you're at a BNI, and you get up and you're talking about what you do or your idea, and you don't have confidence, you're shaky, you're nervous, you feel awkward. Unfortunately, the perception is you're not confident in your idea. You're not confident in your capabilities, which is not true. But the research shows that that's what the audience thinks.
So it's a credibility factor then at that point is what you're saying.
Exactly. It becomes credibility.
So then the reality is it's very important then from a business standpoint, if you're the owner of your company, you shouldn't be dismissing a factory worker or the shipping guy or somebody in accounting from having training in public speaking.
Absolutely, because these are the people that typically get nothing, no training in public speaking. And then they're asked to participate in a meeting. Most companies try to get buy-in from everybody, and they wonder why these people don't speak up. They're just not confident enough, and they don't want to hurt their own credibility by getting in front of a group and bumbling and stumbling.
So the reality on that then too is, in today's business world, we have to do more with less.
Right.
So we should be giving our employees as many tools as we possibly can so that they can help the company to grow.
Absolutely.
And so what you're also saying is, from a perception standpoint, we all know that the guy in shipping, he's been doing it forever, and he has great ideas, and he now knows about new things that are going on. Engineers went to a class, learned something new process. They know that there's a way, something for the system that we do, we could do it better, more efficiently.
Right.
And that can impact the bottom line.
And how are you going to tap into that if they're not comfortable speaking?
Absolutely. So that makes a ton of sense. So perception is very important, and there were some problems, though, that people have that you mentioned. And so one of the things that I see sometimes is like a shaky hand. Is that one of the common?
That is probably the first telltale sign that somebody's very nervous. They can control their face, they can typically control their body, but the hands always give it away.
So what do you do then? What are you supposed to do?
Well, you can
then
chop off your hands.
There's an idea. Get the axe.
Well, first of all, why are they shaking? They're shaking because you have this adrenaline, all this excess energy because you're nervous.
Okay.
But you're not really getting into a fight or anything where you need the adrenaline, so your hand starts to shake. There are a couple of things you can do. The first thing you can do is you can speak with your hands held gently behind your back, which is a posture that exposes the front of your body, it shows confidence, and now you don't have to worry about it, if it's a short speech.
Okay.
Another thing is if it's a longer speech, you can move your hands a lot, because when you move your hands, the bigger movements cover the smaller movements. But probably the best one, and the one that I like most, is never, ever take a piece of paper and hold it in your hand like this, because leverage dictates a small movement right here at your elbow is going to be a huge movement here. And even though you're shaking a tiny bit, it looks horrible.
Okay, right.
If you need your notes, put something heavy below it. Like a leather pad folio is perfect. It's heavy, it's thick, it looks professional, and nothing will shake.
That makes sense. What about the situation, I've heard people like their voices cracking.
Right, and getting the shaky voice.
Yeah, they got the shaky voice. Is that the same thing?
You're talking about two different things, but I'll answer both.
Okay.
The shaky voice is very embarrassing to people when it sounds like they're, I'm really nervous.
Right.
The way to stop that, well, what people usually do when that happens is they hear it, and so they do what's intuitive. What's intuitive is to speak more softly.
Oh, okay.
But the more softly you speak, the more pronounced
the wave is?
The wave is.
Okay.
Right. Research shows clearly your vocal cord is shaking because you have all that adrenaline. If you speak louder and more clearly, again, the large movement of your vocal cord will completely cover the small shaking of it. So don't do what's intuitive. Don't speak less. Don't speak lower. Raise the volume, and that won't happen. You also mentioned the cracking voice, which is usually from dry throat.
Okay.
And there's also that I have to swallow.
Right, right.
In the middle of every sentence. You hear people when they're nervous, they do that.
Yeah. Most people would say take a drink of water, right?
Water is absolutely the worst thing. I mean, it's not going to hurt you, but it's definitely not going to help you.
Okay.
If you do have water, make sure it's not cold. It'll make all your muscles constrict.
Oh, okay.
But water just evaporates. And this might sound kind of gross.
Oh, boy.
But it really works. If you drink lukewarm orange juice, it completely coats your throat and gives you a little bit of extra kind of phlegmy feel.
Okay.
Which really, really coats that dry throat, and you won't be swallowing and your voice won't be cracking. A couple of other quick tips if you don't happen to have orange juice but you feel it's happening.
Okay.
If you could imagine eating those Sour Patch Kids, I'm sure your kids like those, right?
Yeah.
If you can imagine eating one of those Sour Patch Kids, right now I'm imagining it, and you start to salivate.
Yeah.
And it really moistens your throat as well.
Okay. So now, when you're presenting, though, I think I've heard you say before it's very important that, because we were talking about that credibility thing.
Right.
You want to start whatever you're trying to communicate, you want to know coming into it, here's my sentence or here's my opener for it.
Bingo. That is, people disagree about should you remember your presentation wrote or should you kind of have an outline and fill in the flesh. And I'm not going to say one way is better than the other.
Okay.
However, they've hooked people up to the monitors to see when they get the most nervous during a presentation. When are people most likely to freeze? They are most likely to freeze either in the first 10 seconds or the last 10 seconds.